Calling our City Commission meeting to order at 9 a.m. on Tuesday, February the 8th, 2022. This time we'll have the invocation by Pastor Tim Crisco, Associate Pastor of Macedonia Church, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance.
All right, let us pray. Lord, we come to you with hearts of gratitude. We thank you for the community that you have put us in, Lord, this peaceful and great community. Lord, we pray that you prosper it, the city of Lynn Haven. But Lord, let us not forget those that are in need during this time in our own community in Panama City, those that may not have a home or a pillow to sleep in, or a pillow to sleep on, sorry. Let us remember those that are in our country that are in need too, those that have been dealing with ice storms, floods, those things of various natures that, Lord, let your peace and your comfort be with them. We pray for this country, Lord. We pray that your peace abounds, Lord, and your love abounds. Lord, settle disputes. Make peace in the Ukraine, in Russia, Lord. We pray for these very things. Lord, we pray that they can experience the freedom that we experience, the freedom of a free nation, where we can worship in freedom, where we can have freedom of speech. And Lord, we have a democracy of government, Lord, that blesses us and prospers us. Lord, we pray for your wisdom. Let your wisdom be upon these city leaders and the leaders of this community and the citizens of this community. We would pray, Lord, for your wisdom, as it says here in James, but the wisdom from above is first pure, then peaceable, gentle, open to reason, full of mercy and good fruits, impartial and sincere. And a harvest of righteousness is sown in peace by those who make peace. We thank you, Lord. We praise you. In your heavenly and holy name we pray. In Jesus' name, amen. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you, Pastor Crisco. This time we will have our public commentary. Please remember you're allowed 3 minutes. Also address your comments to the chair. And per our codes, we will not allow any personal attacks, or I will have to interrupt the comments. All right, public commentary. Yes.
Good evening. Rich Walker, 1106 Michigan Avenue. Normally, at this stage of the game, with these directions here, it's not advantageous for any citizen to get up here and speak to you guys and ladies. However, take in consideration this little piece of paper that I don't know who the author is, I don't know if it's agreed to by the commissioners, details to us in a synopsis how to say it, when to say it, why to say it. And that's not right. That there is instructions for the chairman, that's right. And they are in Robert's rules. Oh yes, Robert's rules is not a law. It's sometimes fiction. So what happens here is, you're like you're in kindergarten. You're treating your citizens with the First Amendment and the Fourth Amendment like children. If I have to raise my hand to go to the bathroom and get permission, that's odd. I don't think that's right. You should be able to get up here and speak exactly like the First Amendment, exactly what you want to do, as long as you are not disruptive, that's correct. As long as you don't yell fire, you're allowed to say anything you want. And yes, the chairman has the right to say 3 minutes, but he also has the right to extend that. He has lots of rights. He also, by state rules, loses his rights when he recognizes the speaker. Therefore, the speaker has all the rights available. What I'm getting at here is I feel that getting up in front of you, ladies and gentlemen, getting permission to speak, you are infringing on me. You are telling me when to speak, what to say, how to say it, and how long to say it. And I don't think that's right. I think you better take a look at this and amend it to a few social graces to your public who are listed in your work order as the people above. We the people. They are above the commissioners. They are above the staff. They are above the elected officials. They are number one. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? Yes, sir.
Good morning. My name is Jeff Leptrone. I live at 2106 Coral Drive. Here to talk today about the LBB property and the conversion from industrial to low-density housing. I live directly across from that area on Coral Drive. My neighbors and I have been fortunate enough to live across from that unspoiled nature area. It was probably the prime reason that we bought our property in that area. I can tell you it's like a little zoo out there. The eagles are constantly stealing fish from the osprey. There are herons and any number of water birds out there. Horned owls talk throughout the night. We have, at sometimes during the year, manatees that come through there. It is an unspoiled, great nature area. If the land use is approved for the area, it's going to significantly change what's out there right now. It will negatively affect our land area. So as I'm sure you can imagine, we're concerned what's going to go out there. In the documents, it says that the developer, if approved, is going to avoid the wetlands in that southern area or throughout the area. According to the documents in that southern area, there's 14 acres out there. Understand from the documents that they say that there are 11 acres of wetlands in that area. When you look at some of the federal websites, it shows that there are wetlands throughout that area. So that certainly needs to be deconflicted no matter what. We lost millions of trees in through Hurricane Michael. We're losing more trees through other housing developments that have been approved all along 390, 389, the numerous gas stations that are going in, et cetera, et cetera. We believe that it would be a great idea to preserve that little piece of unspoiled nature in Lynn Haven to prevent any runoff that's going to go into that estuary that's right there, which is very fragile. It's very shallow out there, and you're going to see significant damage to that. So we're very concerned about that area, and we would like to have you guys and women take serious consideration as to what happens to that area. Thank you.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? Yes, sir.
Good morning, Mr. Chair, to the commissioners, Madam Manager. My name is Brian Baumgardner. I live at 2202 Coral Drive. I am a neighbor 2 doors down from Mr. Leptrone, and I have some concerns I wanted to share with you all as well about the potential land use change of Dr. Albibi's property. First, I'll mention he is a gentleman that he and I have worked with over a number of years, whom I hold in the absolute highest regard, and wanted you all to be aware of that. I'm also very familiar with that industrial park back there and the importance of having industrial areas like that in our city. there are numerous studies that if you all have an opportunity, I know everybody's extremely busy, but if you have an opportunity to do some studies on the impact of losing those industrial sorts of lands in cities and converting them over to residential, it has an adverse impact on it because of the effect on the tax base. At a time where so many cities are looking to recruit business and have these sort of dedicated areas set aside, I don't know why we would choose to go another direction with everything that's happening at the new airport. There's just amazing things happening all around our county, our city. If you look at what's happening out at Tyndall Air Force Base, I mean, clearly we are going to need the right sorts of space set aside in the future to support those kind of operations here. Dr. Albibi's property is directly across the street, essentially, from Marina Island. To the left is the old Sallie Mae building. Forgive me, I know that's not what it currently is. But directly across is part of the Marina Islands. I think it's 50-something acres that's there. I don't know how the commission would reconcile having a land use change to residential and not immediately have the same request for the parcel across the street when you have the heavy manufacturing out at the end, the old Honeywell property. So just there's a lot of resources available to the local people in our community. If you do a quick review of the Bay County Economic Development Alliance webpage, you will see none of the vacant property is listed. So it doesn't even have kind of line of sight from a federal perspective. So before we do any land use changes and give up on the vision that people set aside over 35 years ago on Hugh Nelson Park, I would hope that we really are very careful about giving up on the idea of what that industrial park can be in the future. It's certainly an easy, short decision to put in that residential. It seems like a much harder lift to get that residential or that property developed as industrial, but I think in another 40 years, looking back, it's the right thing to do. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Additional public commentary? If not, thank you all for your comments. We will certainly take those in consideration as we move forward with our decisions. This time we'll have our mayor's report. Had a chance to do a few things since the last commission meeting. Had a chance to meet with the leadership from the landings with their HOA to discuss the flood and stormwater mitigation in their housing development. And so it was a very productive meeting, able to bring some of the information back to our Public Works Director, Mr. Chris Lightfoot, and get some input from him that we could send to them, and also give them some direction on individuals and state officials that they can contact to try to get some things moving forward for them. Also, I had a chance, along with the city manager, to be a part of a FEMA meeting that was hosted at Panama City Hall. I had a chance to meet the new national director of FEMA and her staff, and so it was a very good conversation, and that's how I would describe it. It wasn't just a meeting of her telling us what she would do and giving us grand ideas and feel-goods about how she would hope to change things and make things better, but really receiving the input that we provided, especially over some of the challenges and hurdles that we've encountered in working with FEMA and receiving funding for the projects that were destroyed during Hurricane Michael. And so her and her staff were very open-minded and actually made a few changes right there at the table. It wasn't just, we'll get back with you, but directed our state director for natural disaster to make some changes. And so it's, though we may not be the immediate beneficiaries of that conversation, it's good to know that moving forward, that they're going to take what we've discussed into consideration and help other communities that may be experiencing or that will experience what we experienced here with our natural disaster, Hurricane Michael. And so thank the city manager for the input that she was able to provide, especially with her experience in working with FEMA, and also just the other officials that were there to verify what we were saying. And so them hearing that it's not just us here in the Panhandle, but they've heard the same issues as it related to working with FEMA throughout that time period. And so it was good for her to hear it from us, but also hearing it from other communities as well. And thank you to Commissioner Eldridge. I know that he was working diligently with the city manager on that before I came on board. And so, it's a task at hand, but thankfully we're able to move forward. And actually, in some ways, some of the issues that we have here, we are still ahead of the timetable than other cities in Bay County. So we're very thankful for that there's still other cities who have not been able to begin their rebuilding process because they have not received the approval from FEMA. So again, thank you to city manager and staff for diligently working with FEMA and aggressively and assertively making known our needs so that we could get to where we are today. Also had a chance to go to Mosley High School. They had 10 students to sign college scholarships for athletics, and so that was real exciting to be a part of that. 3 of the young men were part of the mentor group that I'm a part of there with Principal Brian Bullock, and so it was real exciting to see those young men where they've come over the past 2 years and to see where they're headed, and so that was real exciting as well. In general, I had a chance to meet with different residents to discuss various concerns, phone calls, emails, and just some personal conversations. Also had a chance to sit in with the city manager as we had a conversation with state officials regarding the traffic issues in our area. And so we're hoping to make some headway with that. And so she can give more detail on that. Had a chance to also, as I try to do on a regular basis, follow up with Mr. Chris Lightfoot to discuss our stormwater progress here in the city of Lynn Haven. And so, of course, he has a report coming up, but certainly want to let the citizens know that the stormwater assessment is being utilized. It is being put to use, and so we're being able to make great progress as it relates to our stormwater and flood mitigation with the cleaning of ditches, the vac truck. That money is really helping us be able to accomplish that in a quick manner. Yesterday, we also had a chance to go and meet with the residents from Colorado Avenue to give them an update on where we are with their stormwater mitigation. And so I think that was a very productive meeting, and hopefully we're on a good timetable to help resolve some of those issues prior to or right around hurricane season. Also had a chance to talk with city manager about some of our unified land development codes, and so she'll be following up with the commission on how we would like to proceed with that in reviewing some of those things, because I would like for us as a commission, as I mentioned before, I would like for us to be proactive. Oftentimes it seems as if we're very reactive, and so if we can be proactive and continue to listen to our residents and our citizens to see what are the issues that they're having, that we can try to be proactive in addressing those instead of being reactive when something comes up on our agenda or something comes to public commentary. Now we're scrambling to try to find a solution to it. And so if we can look forward and say, okay, what are some of the issues that we know are coming to our area over the next 5-10 years? Can we be proactive in making sure that our ordinances, the various codes that we have, will be able to set us on a good trajectory so that we can keep our city safe, and as Brother Pat described, Commissioner Perno described in one of our strategic planning sessions, quality growth, which is what we desire to have here in Lynn Haven, because there will be a point where we can't grow anymore because we're going to reach our land capacity and we're going to reach our boundaries unless St. Joe gives us some land or something like that, which, that's wishful thinking as well. So just ask that we, keep those things in mind. And there's a few other comments I'd like to make whenever we get to agenda item number 12 in regards to what was stated in our public commentary. I do know, Mr. Walker, that there are concerns about public commentary and how people have their commentary, but I really think just your statement today is evident that that's not what we're doing, because you were able to speak freely. Again, as you know, as you and I have talked several times, my role is to make sure that we have order and decorum here in our sessions, so that people will want to tune in and watch our Lynn Haven City Commission meetings, and we're not, be a circus or a debacle. So certainly that's our intent, not to restrain anyone from making their public commentary. As always, we encourage people to contact us via telephone, via email. As I've put out there, I'm available for at least 1 hour. It's called lunch, and so contact me, and we'll be able to go out and sit down and have lunch, or a cup of hot chocolate over at Wild Root. Wednesdays, I like to have lunch over at Pat Perno's place, because he has that wing deal, and so we can do that. And so just know that's a Wednesdays. Seriously, Wednesdays are a standing appointment with the mayor at Beef O'Brady's for that wing deal. Okay, I had a friend yesterday that wanted to have a meeting with me to meet one of his friends, and he said, "But hey, I'm going to leave your Wednesday open because I know you like Beef O'Brady." So I'm meeting with him on Thursday. So, but that's open to any citizen. We can go out on Wednesdays. And do that as well. We can even go over to Victoria's Last Bite, have some chicken salad over there, or we can go across the street to Wild Root and have some hot chocolate, Sonny's Barbecue. I just like lunch. It doesn't matter. We can go to Simply Seafood, just wherever you want to go. Just poor folks, that's in the picture too. So just saying that if you want to meet with the mayor, lunch appointments are always good. I try not to miss that appointment, okay? So that is my report. Commissioner Eldridge.
Thank you, Mayor. Aside from the normal answering emails that we go through, me and Commissioner Perno had a TPO meeting last week, the Transportation Planning Organization, and we were proud to say that actually we were awarded some money for one of our projects from FDOT. I don't remember, was it a study, Commissioner Perno? Do you remember, was it a study or was it actual paving that we? It was the actual, okay, yep. So we got the Tennessee Street paving done. The only other city that got any funds out of FDOT was Panama City for their Rails to Trails project that they're starting. And the sidewalks, yes. So I'm proud to be able to tell all the residents that we're working hard to try to get money, aside from getting money from taxes. So we don't want taxes to go up. I prefer to work with the state and the federal government on getting these projects done. But other than that, we're just carrying on, and I appreciate everybody being here this morning.
Also want to wish a happy birthday to Commissioner Aldridge, and so happy birthday to you, sir. Commissioner Perno.
Happy birthday, Commissioner Aldridge. Thank you, Mayor. To go further on the TPO meeting on last Wednesday that we attended, toward the end of the meeting, they asked if we had any comments or the FDOT update, and City Manager, and as the mayor said in the report, City Manager I had spoke to her before the meeting just to say, hey, is there anything you want us to ask going into the meeting? And she said yes. And we asked about to review the traffic study again on Highway the 77 corridor. As we all know, it's if you're out on the road at 2, 3, 5 o'clock, the traffic is backing up more, and in the morning it's backing up from the north too. We asked the question, and they said it's been a while. We haven't looked at it. We don't always come up with the access management answers that the city wants to hear, but they did. City Manager told me, and I'll let her tell you guys in her report, that it's an astounding amount of cars that go down 77 every day. So I was very happy that we did that, and it was a successful meeting, knowing that we did secure the funding for the Tennessee sidewalk project. The St. Joe Bay, St. Andrews Bay Estuary Program, I did attend a workshop, and these workshops you learn a lot. You learn about species, about grasses, and gosh, it's a lot to learn. But I'm on the policy board, and that's the voting board. And the estuary program's in its infancy, and in the coming weeks we are going to select a director for the policy board, and we're going to probably split up into the fact that the management board is going to do the X's and O's, so to speak, and the policy board is going to vote on their findings and where they guide the estuary program. But the estuary program is going to become a very powerful board in the area as far as what we're embarking on today, actually, with item 12. The estuary board the estuary program is going to get involved with stuff like that. So we'll see more and more of that in the future, and I'm glad to be part of it. So with that, I'd like to thank all the city staff, all the employees, and our first responders. And I appreciate everything the city does and the hard work everybody's putting forward. So thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Perno. Commissioner Ward?
Yes, so I had also had multiple phone calls and emails from residents, and just like the two gentlemen that came up here talking about the industrial park, it's good to get feedback from the residents, especially on something that we're going to be voting on in the future. So I got to speak with them, got to know the history of the area, some of the back history, and it's good to have all that information before you make a vote. And it's definitely a concern of me in that industrial park. It's a very important decision, and we need to do this right. So, but I'm glad to see a bunch of residents here this morning. I like to see the room filled up, and hopefully it stays like that in the future. Along with that, I'm always available. You can email me, call me. My number is 850-391-1217. I'll meet you wherever, and I'll make time to come see you. I always like talking to residents. And my next time with the commissioner is on the 19th of February, which is not this coming Saturday, but next Saturday at 11 o'clock at Tacos Way. So if you'd like to come and get a bite to eat, and you don't have to come to that one. Like I said, you can call, email me, and I'll meet you wherever. And the last thing I have is, I know the last couple of meetings I talked about certain things the state has control of that kind of limits our powers of municipality on certain things. And so I think it was Eldridge, Commissioner Eldridge made the suggestion of sending contacting the state rep, Jay Trumbull, which I did. And not only did I send him an email, I sent one to the two that are running for his position since Jay Trumbull's terming out, Brian Cloudis and Griff Griffiths, along with the Florida League of Cities. And this is the letter I sent to him. Sir, I'm writing to you as a Lynn Haven City Commissioner because I have concerns about some of the Florida rules and laws that are set in place that I feel limit the control and authority that municipalities have. Just like families are the most basic unit upon which society is built, I feel the same way about municipalities when it comes to overall governance of our country. Municipalities lay the foundation for communities in which citizens share the task of maintaining and improving the places where they live. Assigning responsibility to the smallest and lowest units of competent authority yields better governance, if not always better government. Every community is different and unique, which is why local governments are in the best position to determine what they feel is best for their community. Municipalities exercise their power closest to the people, and by allowing them to govern, empowers them to support what Abraham Lincoln said during his Gettysburg Address: government of the people, by the people, and for the people. I understand that some of the decisions were made years ago before your time in office, and I'm sure at the time these decisions were made, they were made with the best intentions. However, some of these decisions stifle progress that municipalities are trying to make, and feel we need to work on giving some of this authority back to municipalities. I also understand there is a balance between how much power should be given to the state versus municipalities. Below are just some of the examples I believe municipalities don't have the control and authority that they should have. First one being the local option fuel tax. I understand that this tax can provide up to 11 cents on each gallon of gas for local governments and provides a source of revenue to be used for transportation infrastructure. Currently, Bay County has levied 6 cents on each gallon of gas for this tax. However, per Florida Statute 336.025, this tax is imposed by either a majority vote at the county commission or a county-wide referendum. I can understand the state imposing certain restrictions, such as a maximum tax rate that can be imposed to prevent a rogue council or commission from establishing an excessive tax rate. However, I believe the overall decision should be decided by the local municipality and its residents. Second one was municipal courts and traffic fines. A handful of states, such as Florida, are not able to have municipal courts, but have county courts that handle case types similar to those handled by municipal courts, such as traffic offenses, misdemeanor criminal offenses, and small monetary disputes. Florida determined this when they passed the court system amendment to its constitution back in March 1972. The concern I have is the amount of fines that a municipality collects is minuscule to the budget they need to support their police department. For example, in fiscal year 2021 to 2022, Lynn Haven wrote citations that totaled $430,802 in fines that were collected, but Lynn Haven only received $34,241, or 7.95% of those total fines. With a budget of approximately $4.2 million for our police department, the fines the city collects barely scratch the surface they need and must rely on our hard-working local taxpayers to pay for the rest. This doesn't seem fair to me, and feel the fee schedule for these fines needs to be revised so that municipalities receive their fair share to properly equip their police department so they can effectively serve and protect our community, or the state needs to allow municipalities to have their own courts so they can receive their fair share of the fines, and they will be in the best position to determine what these fines fund. And the last one was mobile food trucks. The 2020 Florida legislature created Florida Statute 509.102, which provides that the regulation of mobile food dispensing vehicles involving licenses, registration, permits, and fees is preempted to the state of Florida. As such, a municipality may not require a license, registration, or permit other than that required by the state. The statute doesn't prevent the city from imposing fines to enforce code violation, but it does prevent them from suspending or revoking their permit if the need ever arises. I believe this is government overreach, and the municipality should have the authority to do this. I would like to discuss this further at your earliest convenience to gain your perspective on this. Thank you for your time. And out of all the people I emailed this to, I only received one response, which was Brian Cloudis. And I'm looking forward to sitting down and talking with him, and hopefully I'll get some responses from the others. But that's what I sent out, and that's my report. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for following up on that. In addition, I would probably ask you to also forward that, or suggest to forward that to the governor and the lieutenant governor. And the reason I say that is because there are certain actions that the governor takes which limits what we do as municipalities. For example, as it related to how we responded to COVID-19 as a city, there were certain things that he could put injunction that we couldn't override, so we were handcuffed in some situations. So though we see certain things on state statute and written in the law books, there are things that the governor, lieutenant governor can do, and also influences that they can have as well, especially with the lieutenant governor working there at the Senate when it comes to getting some of those laws changed and updated. So that would be a suggestion and reaching out to them as well.
Yep, and consider it done. I'll definitely write to them also, and I would encourage any residents, anyone, to write the same thing if they feel that belief or that opinion also. Power in numbers. So, thanks.
It is. Thank you. Commissioner Tender?
Thank you. The last couple of weeks, I've met with a number of different residents, received miscellaneous calls. I'd really like to thank our department heads. I try not to call them unless it's something that really needs attention. And Greg and Bobby both stepped out this last week and took care of a couple of different issues with water and street lights. And I really appreciate that. I also met with some gentlemen about the land project, the changing of industrial and whatnot. They educated me quite a bit, and I really appreciated the time that we spent together. And I've talked to another resident about stormwater, and I think that there's something in the works for him, so we're going to just sit on that and see, how we do as far as timely in getting it done in a timely manner. That's about it for me. I love your letter. I think it's perfect. And we do need to do something about that. The only other thing that I had, and I know it's coming up in the consent thing, is the folks that run for the Planning Commission. Do we ask them what type of work they do? I don't know if that's on their application. I don't know if it plays a part. I'm not saying one way or another. But is their way of life, how they earn their money, a factor in making those kind of decisions for the city?
Well,
Yeah.
Essentially, we're still the ones that make the decisions. They are an advisory board, and so although they're on the board, in the application it does ask, what is your occupation. However, we're still the ones that make the decision. For example, we voted no on something that the Planning Commission all voted yes on. And so we take what they say under advisement. And so, again, just an advisory board. And as I look back through our ordinances as it related to all of our boards, the only requirement is that you're a citizen of Lynn Haven. And so that's for all of the boards that we have, is that you're just a citizen of Lynn Haven. And so if that's something that we want to review for all of the boards, not just the planning commission, but for all the boards and commissions that we have, if we want to, sort of strengthen those requirements, that's something we can look into. However, do realize that we don't have citizens that are just beating down City Hall to turn in applications for any of our boards and or commissions. Oftentimes, we're having to go out and recruit individuals to be a part of the boards and commissions, whether it's the CRA, the Planning Commission. Planning Commission is probably one of the more popular ones. Beautification Board, Community Leisure Service Board. I mean, we have several boards here in the city of Lynn Haven that are not filled, that we do need to get people to come out and fill those boards, which, again, when I look at all of them, the requirement was just that you're a citizen of Lynn Haven. Now, I don't know this to be the case, but I'm sure that our police chief sort of gives a look over of those, can give a look over those applications just to make sure that individual is a good citizen for the city of Lynn Haven. But hopefully we would know that individual that's applying, so we would know whether or not they're a good citizen, especially in their time of residency here. So.
I brought it up because it was brought to my attention.
Can I add something to that?
Certainly.
I believe also, I don't know if this is kind of going down the road that you're looking at, but when you first do that, you have to fill out a form with supervisor elections. I think it's Form 1, and there are certain investments and things, and I think the whole idea, if I'm not mistaken, is to kind of see if there's something that might affect their position, and then, or if something happens, they can go back to that form and say, well, you said this. So if I'm not mistaken, I could be wrong, but.
Mm-hmm. And that's basically the end of my report. I also want to thank Brian Blaylock. He's looking into something. I love Lynn Haven, and I love how small we are, and I love the fact that when there's a situation that arises, we can contact somebody and action is taken. And that makes a huge, huge difference to me. Thank you very much.
All right. Thank you. Thank you, Commissioners, for your report and for your work.
Mayor, if I may just add, I was texted to me by, I think, Ryan Scray, but the Anna Eldridge Memorial Fun Run is going to be Friday, 2/18, and it's a fun run here at Sheffield Park, and it's going to be a $5 entry, and 100% of the proceeds go to the Lynn Haven Animal Shelter. Okay. And Anna Eldridge is a young lady who left us much too soon, so it should be a good event, and I just wanted to mention it so we can all support it if we can. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, City Manager.
Yes, sir. First and foremost, we always like to recognize our employees for the great work that they do, and that would be our Employee of the Month, which is Dane Willis. I'll ask that Mr. Greg Kitwell and Dane come to the front so that we can recognize him. And Greg will tell you a little bit about.
Good morning. Dane Willis is a city's utility locator. He locates all the water, sewer, and reuse lines in the city's right-of-ways. In addition to that huge task, one locate could span the entire 14th Street for the 390 project. It could cover several city blocks for stormwater ditches. Sure. In addition to all those duties, Dane also steps in as our field supervisor, running crews, training crews. Just yesterday morning, he assisted the crews on making a new tap for a new home that's being built. So we're double and triple dipping Dane. He is a great person to work with. He always has a positive attitude. And I just can't say enough how I think of this young man. He is a great asset to the city.
I will also say, while we've been hit with COVID within the city, Dane took on some additional duties of other people while they were out. And we just are forever grateful for employees that can always step up and pinch hit in other departments or the same department. Next is our warrant list. And Kiki will come forward, and if you have any questions.
Good morning. May I answer questions about the warrant list? Thank you.
Great. And then we also have our stormwater update. We have these every month. We actually put this in place when we decided to pass the stormwater assessment. That's for those of you who don't know why we do these every the first meeting of every month. And this just gives you kind of an update where we are and what we're spending the stormwater assessment on. So that is Public Works Director Chris Lightfoot.
Good morning. So just a brief update from last month to this month. We had our kickoff meeting for the legislative funded stormwater improvements dredging project. As you recall, that's the $1 million legislative appropriation that we received and $1 million match through the city that we'll use through the half-cent funding. So we had our kickoff meeting with DEP after the commission approved it to go over the invoice submittal process and all of that. Our next step in that project is to get the surveying done on all of the outfalls so that we can begin the design process. We also have our 19th Street and Montana Avenue box culvert replacement out to bid, and bids are due March 8th on that project. We've had numerous in-house culvert and inlet repairs that we just do in-house with our staff. And then, as you all know, the commission approved the Arpa projects, which included the 1600 block of Indiana Avenue. That project is out to bid. Bids are due March 15th on that one. East 7th Street, we're polishing up some things on those plans that were completed in 2019, and that should be out to bid within the next 2 weeks. And then East 10th Street, that project is on the agenda today for you all to approve a task order for design on that one. One of the things that we did to address some of the flooding on Wyoming Avenue and Colorado Avenue was we installed a cross pipe there at 9th and Wyoming. And what that does is allows stormwater to flow south all the way down Wyoming to 12th and west down 9th to the Colorado-Mississippi outfall there. So it's kind of giving two ways for the stormwater to leave and will help relieve some pressure there in that area. Our ditch digging contractor is still making progress. He's at over 38,000 feet of ditches. Currently, he's working on the east side of the city. He was on Texas Avenue this morning, working between 8th and 12th Street. And this is just a map that we try to update as we go. As you can see, we're working on finishing up this side. The pink or purple there is what the contractor has dug. The orange is what the vac truck has come through and cleaned behind him. The vac truck should be all the way down to Mullet School Road by the next time we do the presentation here. And then as we talked about, the contractor's here on the east side, and the vac truck will be continuing behind him as he rolls. Any questions?
I think you might have said it, and I might have missed it. The installed pipe you put on 9th in Wyoming.
Yes, sir.
Is that near Colorado?
So it's 2 blocks over.
Is it?
So the problem area in Colorado there is the 900 block. So the stormwater here, it started at 8th Street on Wyoming and was working its way down, and it was basically going west and overloading Colorado there. So what we did with this pipe here is that goes south. The picture here is looking south down Wyoming, and so that will help take some of that stormwater down to 12th Street to flow out to the bayou.
So that will help Colorado?
Correct.
Okay.
And we also approved the task order, or signed a task order for the additional pipe under Mississippi Avenue that will be on there.
Okay, cool. And then the only other question, it says 38,000 linear feet of ditches were dug. Is that where we were expecting to be, further along?
So you approved the contract in October. They started digging in November. I feel they're making some serious progress. And what we're going to do, this map here, as we go. So I have one from last fiscal year, and it's colored the exact same to show what we dug in-house. We didn't have a contractor last fiscal year. Right. So what we plan to do is at the end of this fiscal year, basically print out a map for the public to see, and this is on the website as well, but print out the big 24 by 36 map to show what we did in fiscal year 21 and what we have done in fiscal year 22 with the stormwater assessment in place to show the progress, the amount of progress that has been made with that funding.
And so at that time, we'll probably have a better idea how much longer it'd take to do the rest of it?
Correct. So we set aside $175,000 in the budget to dig ditches. We have about $59,000 left on that PO. We will probably ask for a little bit more during the mid-year budget when we present that to you, and that will finish up the area over here on the west side, which we dug most of those ditches, probably about 60% of those ditches last year, but we've got a little bit more that we want to dig to complete everything. So we plan to put that in our mid-year budget and present it to try to get a little bit more funding there.
And I'm sure you're probably seeing the benefit of it.
A huge benefit. We have dug probably more since October than probably has ever been dug at one time in the city.
Good, thanks.
Any additional questions?
Thank you, Chris. Just a couple other things. The mayor's already talked about that we've met with Administrator Griswold and FEMA to share some concerns, and I know that it will surely help others in future natural disasters and also will help us now. The auditors are here. They will be here several weeks. They've set up shop over in the customer service, and then after they're finished, of course, they will either meet with our commissioners and then also do a public workshop on any findings, and we hope none this year. Just so you know, 2 years ago we had 7. Last year we only have 1, and hopefully we can get rid of that 1 if all possible. So some amazing things going on in the finance department. Had the opportunity to meet Dr. McCullough with FSU. They asked many people to come out and meet him and talk to him a little bit about the municipalities, and so that was a great meeting there. The fire department is almost complete, and we will be so very happy with that in the next coming weeks. We are planning a strategic workshop for our staff that we will go in, and then after we finish that, I'll be writing a strategic plan that hopefully we'll bring to the commission, and you all will look at and add anything else, and then hopefully approve that. Also, Spring Ball will be opening March 5th. The city is really growing. We're glad that we're able to get so many youth out. This year, as of now, we have 283 youth that have signed up for our Spring Ball. That's probably more than we've had in a very long time. And it's just a great thing for our kids to get out and enjoy Spring Ball. So we look forward to March 5th, our opening day. I think it's going to be a great day. Thank you, Community Services, for helping put that out. Just a heads up, because of the construction that's going over next door, and it is going very, very well, on the 21st, in order to move utilities underground, which is pretty exciting for the city that we will have underground utilities. Power for the customer service will be out that day, but need not worry. We have already put something in place, Joe and his folks, that we will still be open. It may take us a little bit longer, but we will still be open to serve the residents of the city of Lynn Haven. We were recognized again for 2021 as a tree city. This is something that is always been very dear to me, and so I just want to let you know that the tradition continues. Also, Black History activities have been going on. We've been recognizing many people on social media. There are some other activities that will be coming up on February 11th. We'll have a movie day in the park. It's actually a double feature, A Class Divided and MLK FBI. We invite you all to come out. I know that there are some classes that have contacted us, and we probably anticipate some of those classes will come out for movie night and have a lot of great things going on. And then finale will be at our last commission meeting, where again, we love the art of our youth, that they express what Black history means to them and recognize some of African Americans in the past. And of course, the commission will have the hard job of judging those as they have in the past, and they will tell you that it is a very difficult job. You do an amazing job. And then lastly, to kind of top it all off, we will have our own Lynn Haven resident. She was born, raised here, went to Mosley High School, Colonel Nikki Mitchell, actually. She is, I think, the 11th female colonel and to be tapped. And I just think it's a great thing that we have someone right here that grew up right here in the city of Lynn Haven that will come back and speak to our youth and others doing Black history. A reminder that there is a workshop March 10th of another Marina Island workshop. As they said before that they would like to continue these workshops to keep the commission and the residents informed. I think it's a really great thing. And lastly, Commissioner Perno did talk about the TPO, and it is something that I am concerned. I've watched a lot and gauged and heard from so many residents about the fact because Highway 77 is so congested that people take the side roads and it becomes very dangerous for our residents. And so yes, I did send an email to Secretary Gaynor, and they were very responsive. They had already done an updated traffic study, and amazingly enough, within a week, 226,000 cars travel this way down this corridor here. And so with that updated information, they're gonna probably do some things to help try to mitigate that. But the next thing we must do is take our request to the TPO to look at development and planning study. And that study will decide whether or not it will make the FDOT list for future planning and how Highway 77 will be either expanded or something else done to it so that we can at least mitigate some of the traffic that is backlogged on Highway 77. So we're going to be working on that as well, and I just thought that was pretty interesting that 226,000 cars travel through our city within a week. And that is my report.
Thank you, City Manager, for your report. And thank you for the work that you do on behalf of our city and for the commissioners. I know oftentimes we don't say thank you enough, but I know as a mayor and as a resident, I certainly appreciate the work that you do. City Attorney. This time we have our consent agenda. We have our minutes from 125-22, regular meeting minutes, approval to extend occupation of an RV at 500 Cary Lane through the end of November 2022 while improving their home, delayed due to supply shortages, and approval of the appointment of new planning board member, Brian Dick, to the planning board. Is there any item that we would like to remove from the consent agenda? Right. If not, is there a motion to approve consent agenda?
So move.
Second.
All right, there's a motion made by Commissioner Eldridge and second by Commissioner Ward to approve the consent agenda. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Eldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Agenda item number 11, this is the public hearing for the final reading of Ordinance 1126, amending the city's code of ordinances regarding mobile food trucks. City Manager, if you will read that by title only, please.
An ordinance of the City of Lynn Haven, Florida, amending the city code of ordinances regarding mobile food trucks, removing regulations of mobile food trucks involving licenses, registrations, permits, and fees, repealing provisions of ordinances in conflict herewith, providing for codification, and reciting an effective date.
Thank you. I know, City Attorney, you've updated us on this several times in our pre-commission meetings. Is there anything else you'd like to add?
No, I think we've gone through this. at our 2 prior workshops and last meeting. Again, this just takes out all the permits, registrations, and fees that are now preempted to the state.
Okay. All right, any discussion?
I just wanted to say, I want to make sure that I heard us right at the pre-meeting. If this becomes an issue, it will go to code enforcement and then could eventually end up back here. Is that correct?
Yes, we still have code penalties, so we can still do penalties if they don't display their license or if they don't take out their trash or park overnight. All those things remained. We just took out a city permit or registration. But beyond that, if they're not in compliance with the rest of our code, we can do code enforcement violations.
But we can't revoke or suspend their license. We got to leave that to the state. So problem arises, we have to let them know and make the final determination.
Yeah. Thank you.
That is correct.
All right, any additional discussion from the commission about this? Any discussion from the public? All right, is there a motion from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion to approve by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Perno. City Manager, if you'll call the vote.
Commissioner Ward,
Yes.
Commissioner Perno,
Yes.
Commissioner Eldridge,
Yes.
Commissioner Tender,
Yes.
Mayor Nelson.
Yes, motion passed. Moving on to our new business. Agenda item number 12, the first reading of ordinance number 1127. This is the application for future land use map amendment for Albibi, parcel numbers 08922-060-000 and 098-925-010-000. City Manager, if you would read that by title only, please.
An ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163, Florida statutes of a land use change from industrial to low-density residential for an approximate 15.52 plus acres of property located on Sally Mae Drive in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinance in conflict herewith and providing for an effective date. Providing an effective date. This is an updated ordinance. There was just some information that was off, and I think Kevin is going to explain that to you.
Right, yeah, the body of the ordinance is the same. The legal description actually changed. There were already 2 areas that were in a conservation easement, and they were also conservation land use. So they're not asking to change that conservation land use. And it's kind of hard to tell on the map, but it's basically like the southern shore of that southern parcel. There's 2 parcels. There's a north parcel and a south parcel. The southern shore of the southern parcel in 2 areas was already in conservation, and that'll remain. So the change from what was in your packet is they just did a less than accept from the legal description of those 2 conservation areas. So there will still be conservation on the south, a little bit farther away from Maryland.
Okay. Of course, we will not be voting on this today, but we can still discuss it as a commission. We did hear from some of our residents today regarding their opinion of how we should move forward with this ordinance. One thing I remember in our pre-commission meeting, one of the concerns that you expressed, Commissioner Ward, was regarding the, I guess, businesses there in the industrial park and how that might impact them. So I don't know if it violates any laws or anything. Let me know, Kevin, our city attorney. If you would follow up with some of those businesses that are there in the industrial park to get their opinion, and then at our pre-commission, if you could sort of report that back to us, just what their expressions are regarding this possible change.
Yeah, I've already talked with them. There's only one I haven't talked with yet, and I'll be sure to get that person's information and talk to them.
Okay.
But I let them know. I want to just let them know that aware of what's going on, so it's not a surprise for them, and they can express whatever they want to the commission, so we can make an informed decision.
Okay.
And just to point out, as you guys already know, this is not a rezoning at this point. This is just the application for a land use amendment, and so we're not really looking at what use is going to go in there. It's more of your overall policy decision on your future land use map. So you're really just looking at, is it compatible with surrounding uses? Is it consistent with your comprehensive plan policies? So at this stage, in 2 weeks when you guys come back, That's what you look at on future land use map amendments. When you get into the development order stage, you dig into more of the details of the specific use. So just wanted to remind everybody of that.
Yes.
So I've got a small presentation on here. This is Ordinance, first reading, 1127, small-scale future land use map amendment. The owners are Riad and Rashda Al-Bibi. The agent is Sean McNeil Carroll Engineering, who I don't believe will be here today. He may be, but I doubt it because it's usually just by title only, not the public hearing. Parcel numbers, there are two parcel numbers involved, 08922-060-000 and 08925-010-000. The location of the property is Sally May Drive. The parcel size that they're asking for the land use amendment on is 15.52 acres. The existing future land use category is industrial, and they are requesting low-density residential. The adjacent future land use map designations, which are what you all should be looking at when you decide whether you want to allow it or not. To the north is industrial, to the south is low-density residential, to the east is low-density residential, and to the west is industrial and conservation. This is the parcel here that you can see carved out in red. That's the aerial shot. And there was some question at the workshop as to what was surrounding the parcel. So you can see that this here is the fuel depot, Marina Island. There's the kind of bridge that goes across. This parcel here, I believe, is also Marina Island, fuel depot, industrial. This is all industrial, and then up here you have Marina Island, which is mixed use and commercial. This is the property they want to change to low-density residential, and it is surrounded on these sides by low-density residential currently. This is what the land use map looks like at the moment. So you can see that the parcel that they want to change is industrial, the same as what is to the north and to the west of it. These are conservation areas, so these are the areas that they've actually carved out. They've adjusted the ordinance, they've adjusted the legal description for the ordinance so that it's clearer the land that they want to change to industrial and what is not being changed. You cannot change conservation land use. That has to stay conservation. So they pulled that out. And they kind of tidied up some of the borders there, the kind of edges. This is how it looks now. So this is all low-density residential. This is industrial. And this is the, oops, sorry. This, it's harder to see on here, but this is that same color as the low-density residential. So if it's changed, all this is going to be low-density residential. This is going to stay conservation. This bit here is already conservation, but it's not included in this. It's got its own parcel number. And what they have done is they have just shown the wetland areas that won't be impacted. So those, my little thing, these areas here are all wetland areas that will not be impacted, but they are part of the parcel that's getting changed. And this is something that was requested as a public records request, even though we are not supposed to be looking at what will go on that site because we never know for sure what's going to go on that site. This was submitted as part of the packet as a project site area, so on that area that they want to have changed. This is what they are saying now they would like to put on there, but right now we're just looking at the land use map amendment because once that amendment's changed, who knows, it could get sold. They could change their mind as to, you know, the number of units. But right now, as it stands, the total number of residential dwelling units that could go on this parcel are 20 units per acre. They do not need a land use change for that. They could come in, ask for a development order, and build 20 apartment units per acre. on this acreage right now. They could submit a development order application tomorrow. And if you recall, you just recently approved a property rights element in the comprehensive plan, which you had to approve per the state. The state required that we have that in our comp plan. So right now, they have the property rights to be able to build 20 dwelling units per acre on this. If you change the land use, they will only be able to build a maximum of 4.99 units per acre. Thank you.
Thank you. Any additional questions for
Yes.
Amanda?
I have a
Commissioner Perno?
question regarding the lower parcel. The property appraiser's website, the county has that lower parcel's like 14 acres, and it says that 11.26 acres are wetland, are wasteland.
The property appraisers' categorizations and classifications are entirely different from ours. They call that wasteland. However, what they call it is what they call it. When it comes to developing it, it has a land use now of industrial. If you change the land use, it's still going to have a land use. It's just going to have a different land use that allows for a lower density. When they come to wanting to develop something on there, no matter what it is, whether it be the apartments now, or whether it be single-family homes in the future, they would have to submit a development order application with engineered site plans. If they were going to impact any wetland areas at all, they would have to have permission. They'd have to have permits from the Northwest Florida Water Management District. They would, the Water Management District would decide whether they were going to mitigate for it or however they wanted to deal with that, but they would not be able to build on wetlands unless they mitigated and got permission from them. We have a 30-foot setback from wetlands, so they've identified where the wetlands are on here. So if they submit a development order application to build anything on here, this is the lower part here, Commissioner, where you're talking about. That's where the line goes across. This is the lower parcel. So they have this area here on the upper parcel, and then this area here on the lower parcel. We have a 30-foot setback. So there's wetlands. They'd have to go 30 foot back from that. These are wetlands. They'd have to come 30 foot off there. They'd have to come 30 foot off there. So there's only really a small portion. Even though they're changing it, there's only a small portion in there that'd actually be buildable.
So there's nothing to stop them from building on the wetlands? I mean, they could bring in a whole bunch of dirt and build on
No, there's the
wetlands.
Northwest Florida Water Management District that's stopping them from building on wetlands. So the only way, people can build on wetlands, but they have to get permission, they have to get a permit, and then they have to mitigate by either giving some wetlands somewhere else, giving some land somewhere else, or whatever the Water Management District wants. But that's not, we do not police that. That's the Northwest Florida Water Management District. But we would not allow them to build on there unless they had those permits.
On that last slide you had, what is that supposed to show me, I guess? Is that where they plan on-
These are potentially, now just remember, this is conceptual. They have not submitted this to the city at all to say they want to build this.
Right.
The only reason I'm showing it to you is because there was a public records request. It's not something you would normally look at this stage, but if there was a public, which there was, and the public has it, I don't want the public having something that you haven't seen. So these are on the conceptual plan when they showed us the kind of the area that they were talking about wanting the land use amendment for. It's because these are potentially the lots, and there are 19 lots. These areas here are the wetlands.
So the conservation area, you can't build on that at all?
No, sir.
Ever?
No, sir.
All right.
And I want to ask Amanda, so where did these plans come from? Where did they come from?
All of this that I'm showing you, the legal description, and the applicant is submitting what they would like to have changed. So the applicant submits this to the city because they're saying this is what we would like to have changed.
So this came from Dr. Elbibi?
From his agent, from McNeil Carroll Engineering.
So, okay. So should we assume or not assume that Dr. Elbibi wants to build this project?
I'm not sure at this stage you should be assuming that anybody wants to build any particular project on here.
Uh-huh. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like she said, I mean, at this stage, even though they submitted this to the city, that's not something that the commission looks at yet until we get to the development order stage.
Right.
So
Right.
right now, you wouldn't really look at that.
They have not submitted a development order application. They have not submitted any
Right.
engineered site plans. They haven't actually submitted anything to us saying we would like to build this.
Okay.
Yeah.
So even if by chance this did go through, there's no guarantee that they can build that because
No.
they have to come to us with a development
No,
order.
if not by chance, but if you vote for this to happen, then the land use, you voted that the land use can be changed, so the land use will be changed, but they still can't build anything on there without a development order. And so that would then come to us with the engineered site plans. That's when we would see exactly what it was they were planning on doing or wanted to do with any permits that have been applied for. And that's when the city would review that, and that would come to you as a development order, as a quasi-judicial public hearing.
And when they give you a development order, as long as they're abiding by all the federal, state, and local laws, I mean, we could vote no on it, but what would happen?
I don't want to suggest that.
No, I mean,
No,
I mean, it's.
You're right.
I mean,
You're right.
so
No, I mean,
what we always
would
hear
have
is,
to- we would if the land use is changed to low-density residential, we would look at our low-density residential ULDC and make sure that they're in compliance.
Right.
If you guys find any part non in compliance, you could deny it.
right,
If it is and you still vote no, then they have their own rights, to appeal and challenge that.
right.
And since this was such a big issue a few weeks ago, is there only one entry and exit? I only see one way in and the same way out.
This is not this is a land use map amendment application.
Okay. Oh,
This
I
is not a
understand. I'm
development
just
order.
asking about that
But if this
development.
was a development order,
Uh-huh.
this is a single family development, not a multifamily development, and it is way under 50 units. So
Oh,
it
so
only,
they
it only
could-
applies to multifamily over 50 units.
So at this point, as a commission, although we see this, we have to pretend that it's being unseen and that we have not seen it. And like all of the other land use changes, for example, we had a gentleman that came in several commission meetings ago who asked us to change it from mixed use to commercial, within that neighborhood. And so what we had to do was look at how does that fit into the scheme of that neighborhood and the other surrounding land uses. And I think what Amanda is saying, and city attorney, is that although we've seen all this, we still have to only look at it as if, how does this fit into the scheme of the land usage that is surrounding it?
And our comprehensive plan.
In our comprehensive plan, in our local
And
codes.
then you haven't even got into development in the Northwest Florida Water Management District, looking at it, and you don't know what's in there as far as endangered species and whatnot, so.
So, at this point, there's no guarantee that if it changes, that this person is going to build any homes on that. They may change it and sell it to a business that comes in and creates more industry. We don't know. But I think we just have to focus on what it is now, and will it fit into that industrial park as to what it needs to be, and also just taking into consideration what our residents have given us as well.
Can I just add one thing, sir?
Yes.
I would think that with those two conservation areas already, and that little circular one, they already have a conservation land use. There's a reason that was given a conservation future land use on the map. And I would think it was when this land became industrial. So I would think that was the mitigation that they had to give. When they asked for this land to become industrial, their mitigation was to make those areas conservation so nothing could ever be built on it. Because industrial is a very intense land use. A factory could go on there. So I'm thinking that is why that has a conservation land use. It only ever gets a conservation land use when one of the big subdivisions did the same thing when years back, they have conservation surrounding them because in order to develop their subdivision, they had to mitigate for the impacts, and so they carved out an area that would always remain conservation.
I know Moat Highlands, we have conservation.
That's right, yes.
Behind us, so.
But when you say industrial, when someone can build an industrial, like a factory, it still has to be light industrial though, right?
Yes, sir.
Because it can't be like big
Smokestacks, no, sir.
Right.
No.
So would we be setting the whole land thing that's around Sally Mae, the old Sally Mae building and all of that, will we be setting a precedent if this should get passed, that they can come in up there and do the same darn thing and build houses all the way up around Sally Mae?
What you would just, if you changed this to to low density residential, it would you would go through the same analysis. You'd look to the north and you'd see mixed use in Marine Island. You'd look to the west and see some industrial. You'd look to the south and see all low density residential. So you would just, you're not necessarily setting a precedent, but you're setting your policy of your future land use map of here's what it is. So you'd go through the same analysis then.
So the answer is yes, basically. I mean, if we allow this, we got to allow that.
Again, I mean, a future land use map, it's still the policy of the city. So if you guys decide, our policy is we want to have a very large industrial park, then that's fine. It's a policy decision. But if you think, well, there's already some single family around there, there's already some mixed use to the north, I think it's consistent, then you make that decision. Just because you make a decision in 2 weeks doesn't mean a year from now when someone to the west wants to change it, you might still say, you know what, guys, we already shrunk our industrial park. We don't want to shrink it anymore. That's a policy decision, and that's fine for you to do. So I wouldn't take it as a precedent. Just because you change this, you've got to change other people. Absolutely not.
All right, well, thank you, Amanda, and gives us a lot to think about over these next couple of weeks. Agenda item number 13, first reading of ordinance number 1128, application for future land use map amendment, Market Shops of Lynn Haven LLC, parcel number 11667-280-004. City manager, if you read this by title only, please.
Ordinance number 1128, an ordinance providing for the adoption pursuant to Chapter 163, Florida Statutes of a land use change from mixed use to commercial for an approximate 3.04 plus or minus acres of property located Hammock Square Drive in the city of Lynn Haven, Bay County, Florida, repealing all ordinances in conflict herewith and providing an effective date.
Thank you. Again, this is the first reading of this ordinance, so we're not voting on this today. However, we can have discussion as a commission regarding this ordinance. Any thoughts on this ordinance? All right. Agenda item number 14, discussion and possible approval of the task order with Dewberry Engineers for the survey, design, permitting, and bidding services of the East 10th Street Drainage Improvement Project funded by Arpa.
So this is one of the projects that was approved last commission meeting, funded by the American Rescue Plan Act, and this is for the design from Pennsylvania Avenue to the east to Illinois Avenue and the 900 block of Michigan Avenue for new stormwater, bigger stormwater pipes, inlets, and culverts there.
Got it. Any questions for Public Works Director? Any discussion from the public? Is there a motion from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, motion from Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Perno to approve. City manager will call the vote.
Commissioner Ward?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Eldridge?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. Thank you. Agenda item number 15, discussion and possible approval to close East 10th Street, Ohio Avenue to Pennsylvania Avenue, and House of Seafood Drive at Highway 77 from 7:30 a.m. to 10 a.m. for the Calvary PC 5K Fun Run.
So, Commission, this particular event has gone through all of the processes that we've asked in the special events ordinance. We did meet with Stacy Legg, along with some of the other department heads, including our chief, our community services director, Ty Ferris, our fire chief, all of the people that would be involved in this. And before we hand off and say yes to this permit, it does require that the roads be closed, and there's a 5K run, and the proceeds will go to a charity, and they will be closed from 7:30 a.m. to 10 o'clock a.m., and this is sponsored by Cavalry PC 5K Run Fun Run. And if there's anything else, Todd, that needs to be added, you can come up, but
It would just be House of Seafood at 77 and 10th Street at 77 in Pennsylvania. Those are the only two that would be closed.
Okay.
All right. Thank you. I think this,
It's Saturday, April.
Can you use the mic, please? Can you come up and use the mic, please?
Yeah, this will be a fun run that will start on 10th Street at Sheffield, run east along 10th Street, north on Michigan into Porter Park, across the bridge, which will be a turnaround at House of Seafood, and then they will come back down the same route and finish at Sheffield Park. And for 10th and House of Seafood to be closed just for traffic control purposes because of the number of runners. We're looking at 2.5 hours worth of closure, although it probably will not be that long.
and I think some residents asked the date for this.
It is April 2nd, which is a Saturday.
And we do have some representatives here in case the commission has any other questions.
It's happening at the crack of dawn. It'll be over before most people get out of bed.
Yes, ma'am.
You're absolutely right, Commissioner Tender. Yes.
I think this is a great event for our city, bringing it to our city. I know during the campaign we talked about different activities that could be brought to our city, and a 5K is one of those. I know we have several runners in our city who usually have to go outside of our city, especially the Panama City Beach, quite often to do like the 5Ks or either the Panama City. So to have this in Lynn Haven, I think is a really great thing. Any further discussion from the commission?
Motion to approve.
Second.
All right, any discussion from the public? All right, we have motion by Commissioner Ward, second by Commissioner Perno.
I think it was Tender.
Oh, Commissioner Tender.
He beat me to it.
All right, so at this time, if you'll call the vote, City Manager.
Commissioner Wark?
Yes.
Commissioner Tender?
Yes.
Commissioner Perno?
Yes.
Commissioner Aldridge?
Yes.
Mayor Nelson?
Yes, motion passed. All right, thank you all for coming to our city commission meeting today. We're going to have some refreshments and cake there for the birthday boy, Commissioner Brandon Aldridge. So please stay and enjoy his birthday with him.